Ustate, everybody. Ustate to our global fellowship. Today we are blessed. Today is the 10th of June, 2021, and we are blessed with the presence of Mr. Dinshaw Tamboly, the chairman of the World Zoroastrian Organization Trusts in India, the WZO Trusts in India. He is the chairperson, but he is so humble and says he's just the team player. Welcome, Uncle. Please tell us something about your life, your early childhood, things that motivated you.
Thank you, Karishma. I've always been a regular sort of fellow. I was born in a family, a happy family. I'm the eldest of three brothers. And whatever little we have achieved in life has been teamwork between me and my wife, Bachi, who is unfortunately not able to be present today. Bachi and I were born first cousins, 3 months apart. She was born in Navsari, I was born in Mumbai. Both our fathers were brothers. We used to meet during vacations, summer vacation, Diwali vacations, either at Navsari or Bombay. And we were always sweet on one another from day one. This led to the logical matrimony between us 53 years ago in 1969. And it's been a great journey. All my 74 years that I am, it's been a great journey all my life. I've learned so much from my parents, more from my wife, who's been the guiding. I eulogize her by a short verse which I'd written for her. I'll say it. She's an innocent dove, a picture of beauty, a statue of grace, a friend in distress, the greatest of blessings that I can ever possess.
What a beautiful thing to say about the lady behind you, Uncle. It goes so beautifully with the verses in the Gathas, where Zarathustra Sahib gives guidance, the verse that starts with Sakveni Vezyem Nabyokaini Byomromi, where he tells us to love one another and strengthen one another in Asha through Vahuman to achieve happiness. My naman to both of you. Please do continue.
By education, Bachi has done her BA in economics and BCom in accounts and auditing. As far as I am concerned, I've done my master's in sales and marketing, modern marketing management. Now, I'll say a few words about our professional lives. My father had a company called Mazda Elevators at Bombay. After marriage, Bachi joined the company and was working with my father for a very, very long time. Because of her Navsari connections, we used to go to Navsari quite often to meet her parents, to be with that part of the family. And we ended up opening 3 textile showrooms in Navsari, and which we used to go quite often to run them. Sitting from Bombay, it was very difficult to run it by remote control, and we had to go practically every week or every fortnight for a couple of days. By profession, I've always been a textile person. My first job was with Bombay Dyeing in the marketing department, retail sales marketing. After 10, 11 years, I wanted to move on, and I joined Tata Textiles, where I took over the Tata Textiles have 4 textile mills, had 4 textile mills. And I was in charge of the retail division of all the 4 textile mills, 2 in Bombay one in Ahmedabad and one in Nagpur. Thereafter, I switched on to Reliance Industries because it was Vimal Fabrics, Dhirubhai Ambani's. There I stayed for a couple of years, and then it struck me that why am I working for people when I have adequate knowledge about the textile trade? And I started my own consultancy service in Mumbai, representing garment manufacturers in Bombay to sell their wares overseas, mainly to the European markets and to USA markets. Now, I have always believed that divinity plays a great role in our lives. When I started my consultancy work and traveling quite often, maybe 5, 6 times a year overseas, to survey markets, to book orders, I came into contact with the World Zoroastrian Organization in London. It was established in 1980. And my mami, my maternal aunt, was one, Ruby Contractor was one of the founding members of the WZO. They wanted some representation in India, and they invited me to join their London committee in London, which I happily joined in 1983. For the first few years, nothing really happened except to receive reports, letters, minutes of meetings being held. Then suddenly, out of the blue, a Parsi from one of the villages of Gujarat by the name of Mr. Keki Gandhi, the village in Mandvi, wrote to the World Zoroastrian Organization that many trusts are being formed in India, but all of them look after the Parsis in urban areas. There's nobody to look after Parsis in the rural areas. And so please send us some money for distributing to the. It was to the credit of the committee members in UK that rather than sending money, they thought it would be better to conduct a socio-economic survey, a sample survey, not a census survey, to ascertain the poverty levels of Parsis living in 3 districts of Gujarat, Valsad district, Surat district, and Bharuch district. This was entrusted to a lady called Dr. Kashmira Baya, who was doing a thesis from MS University, Baroda, on Parsis. In 1987, Kashmira published a report. It was a sample survey, I keep on stressing, and not a census survey, in which she identified 687 Parsi families in 209 villages living below the poverty line, which in 1987 was family income of rupees 15,000 per annum in rural areas and 18,000 rupees per annum in the urban areas. Now, that came as a revelation to all of us. And because of I had my roots in Navsari, the WZO UK people requested me if I could look into this poverty, visit a few villages, and revert back to them. Fortunately for me, in one of our textile showrooms, we had a salesman, a Parsi salesman, Sam Dharampuriwala, who was from one of the villages called Dharampuri in Bastad Taluka of Valsad district, of what was Valsad district at that time. When we went to his village, I was always an urban person, never been to a village before. And I was totally shocked. Bachi and I were both rudely shocked to see the quality, the Parsis living in huts, drawing water from the wells, and in some cases walking a kilometer or two to fetch water from the common well, doing marginal farming. And literally their dialect that they had was also that of Adivasis. It was not that of regular Parsis. It was very difficult to understand their dialect also. And that was the time we first came into a opposition from some people that these are not Parsis you're helping, these are non-Zoroastrians. But then we had our answers ready that they were the people who worked as pallbearers at our Dungarwaris, who were chasniwalas in our Agyaris, and they all bought the Sadrakasti. In all probability, they were the progeny of mixed marriages, which the people in Bombay were reticent to accept. That was our first, the first time we had something to answer to the Orthodox that you're wasting community funds on non-Parsis. But fortunately, WZO, the people in WZO realized, UK, that these people should be helped. Now, we thought that it was very easy to give away money as doles, and that would not be the right thing to do. So we introduced a scheme of rehabilitating these poor Zoroastrian farmers by offering them interest-free loans up to 3 lakhs per family, depending on the size of the land, the number of families the number of boys that they had. And I was very fortunate that I had with me and Bachi and we had with us a gentleman called Firoz Pantaki, now deceased since the last 7-8 years, who was a retired conservator of forests. And a young Parsi farmer, our age, my age, a young Parsi farmer called Farokh Kasat, who is still with us. He had his own fields in his own village somewhere near Surat, and he was very proficient in farming activities. So the 4 of us were the first team, Bachi, me, Firoz and Farokh, who undertook this work purely on a voluntary basis. And we impressed upon the beneficiaries that we do not wish to give you money as doles. We want you to work hard, get back on your feet, and from whatever your enhanced incomes are, to repay us from time to time. Now, the average amount that we had to spend per family was between 2 to 3 lakhs, depending upon the size of the land, the lay of the land. Many a times it was rocky land which had to be leveled off. We had to drill bore wells for them. We had to give them fertilizers, seeds. And at that time, fortunately for us, at Navsari, there was an institute called Tata Marginal Farm Training Institute, which we had got these people to visit, stay for 2-3 weeks, learn something about the modern methods of farming, and then implement them in their villages. All this work started in 1991, and till date, till as of last March, when a year ending was there, I think we've touched around 480 odd families in 203 or 204 villages, different villages. At first, when we started going to the villages, we experienced difficulties because the people said, "Why have you come to us to help out of the blue without asking for help? Do you want us to write over our fields to your lands to your name or something like that?" We said, "No, it is just to bring you out from poverty and make you self-sufficient." And it has been such a revelation, Karishma, before our own eyes to see people who could not afford a cycle getting to have their own motorcycles and then small cars. Many of them had these Maruti 800s, which was the cheapest car at that time. Yep. And I mean, it was a very blessed journey.
Absolutely, Uncle. It is then, exactly what is said in the Gathas in 34.6. It says, through the spenta, the taking people forward through benevolence and progress, we are learning about Mazda. The end will come where Kshatravairya and Bahumana are making through Shautananai, through deeds, the Geta, the people of the world, more prosperous, fradente. So you have actually implemented this at ground level. It is
Then,
simply a beautiful story. Thank you. Continue.
I mean, these were all very marginal farmers. Maximum amount of land they had was 5 acres. And unlike the problem that we have in Mumbai and metro cities of reproduction, over there, each family had 5 and 6 boys and girls. Now, to make 5 in 5 acres of land, it would not be possible for them to survive. So we then thought about ways and means, and then it suddenly came to us that, see, if there are 3 brothers, we give a part of the land, a larger part of the land, to the one brother to do the farming activity. The second brother, we encourage them to open poultry farms. And the third brother, we told them to open cattle farm, dairy farms. 5 or 7 heads of cattle, 500 birds, all not layers, but what they call the broilers, which have a lifespan of 48 days, and after that they go to the food processing units. So that was the way we got them. Then there were still people who had maybe more sons or smaller plots of land, 1 acre, 1.5 acres. What to do with these people? So we thought that we must help every family that we are connected with. And then suddenly the inspiration came that why not provide them some sort of self-employment, making an auto rickshaw, opening a motor garage, something like that. And that again brought us, that was in 1995. Between 91 to 95, we were doing just simply agricultural activities. Then when we came to realize these drawbacks, in 1995, we thought about a self-employment scheme whereby we could give amounts up to 3 lakhs to each individual, which they would have to repay in 48 in 30 in 40 48 equated installments over a period of 4 years. So if we give them 300,000, they would have to pay us 7,500 per month over 40 months, 48 months. That was the way. Now, we had already formed our first trust, the World Zoroastrian Organization Trust, in 1991, which was essentially this farmer-based trust. Then, as our work grew and people started to appreciate what we were doing, I mean, raising funds was not an issue for us. We were very fortunate to have the support of great donors. I'll come to them a bit later. For this, the problem that we encountered at that time was that our trust laws in India are not very flexible. We cannot change the objects of a trust. If we need to change the objects of a trust, it takes a long, long time to do that, if at all. So we were guided that it's always easier to open a new trust than to seek additional objectives, add objectives to the existing trust. So in 1995, we formed the W0 Trust Funds. Before that, in 1993, we were advised by a very elderly gentleman, Mr. Rustamji Gai, who was the finance secretary in the government of Morarji Desai, 1977-78. And he said, look, it's always better to have a special trust dedicated to women and children. So in 1993, we went ahead and formed the W0 Trust for Women and Children. And in 1995, the W0 Trust Funds. Now in 1995, we put in all objectives under the sun that we could think of as what we could we are allowed to do. I mean, to the extent that we also wrote that we would be breaking mountains, building football stadiums, roads, whatever came to our mind, we just put it in, and the list went on and on and on and on. And it was very helpful to us.
So this is why I call you a thought leader.
Okay. No, it was not my thought alone. It was the culmination of brainstorming exercises that we had with with Bachi and our colleagues as well.
And also your belief in Hamazori, the concept of being able to think, believe in the divine, and believe in others. Please continue, Uncle.
We are blessed that in our teams over the years, now more than 25 years now, that 1991 onwards, there has been no ego issue amongst our colleagues. Everybody works with commitment and dedication, understanding each other. And that's the way it should be with all trust, which unfortunately it is not. Now, once the self-employment scheme came into operation, very interestingly, an elderly gentleman came to see me at my office in Mumbai. He was working as a senior clerk in Central Bank of India. He said, I'm going to retire within the next 3-4 years. And when I retire, I want you to help me in buying a house in Navsari, a big house where I will keep 4 or 5 elders like me, and we will be able to live together. So he came to my office. As I always say in jest, he had 1,000 cups of tea with me, Karina. And then when he retired, he vanished. He just vanished from the scene. But that gem of an idea here was in our minds. And I happened to just discuss it very casually with a lady called Mrs. Silla Vacha. She is the doyen of fellow philanthropists. She had they had started a trust in India called the Manik Bhai Jijivai Deed of Settlement Fund. And they had handsome amount. And she took to this idea very much. She said, Dinshaw, I want you to start a home for senior citizens. So I said, sure. We've tried to first do it in Bombay, but the real estate prices were exorbitant. Then because of the Navsari connections, I asked Silla that it will be quite easy to start off in Navsari. She said, I mean, this whole thing, finalization took not even a fortnight between discussion with Silla. She said, show me a house which you can buy, and but 3 conditions were there. The facility has to be in a Parsi locality, essentially a Parsi mullah. A marketplace has to be nearby where the elders would be able to go, and it should be near to an Agyari or Ataskara, where they could go to pray. And our focus was that what we would do, it would not be an infirmary where people were bedridden. That we already had in Navsari and in Surat. What we wanted was a home for senior citizens who are mobile. Our logic was that in Bombay, in the panchayat flats, which are 400, 500 square feet, 3 generations live. And there was no privacy as such for the young people. So we thought that it's better to have more. And she funded the entire, in 1996, we finalized this concept. And in 1998, January, we opened the Senior Citizen Center.
Uncle, would it be fair to say now, after hearing this, when people are listening, that you're not just somebody who wants to just help an individual? You're more a community builder. You want to empower people, then to go on and build communities themselves.
You see, because there is a misconception amongst most of our people in India that we are a very affluent community, which we are not. In earlier days, perhaps we were. Now, with our dwindling population, and as per a survey done by the Tata Institute of Social Sciences, they have established that poverty in the community is growing. because of a population, because of a loss of population. And today, the situation is such that one person, even earning a handsome salary, looks after his parents, a grandparent, his wife, and his children. So maybe on a salary of 150,000 per month also, to look after 5 or 6 individuals, it, it, it creates a pinch for them. And that level of our population is rising, unfortunately so. So poverty in the community is today actually increasing. Now, the Senior Citizen Center came into being in 1998 January, as I mentioned. And one fine day, we had a gentleman called Mr. Behram Baxter. Sorry, before I come to that, Silla paid for the entire construction, the entire furnishing of the A, and she said that I want you to keep the monthly subscriptions very nominal to enable even the poor to come and stay. So even today, as on date today, the maximum subscription that we take from people is rupees 6,000 per month, all found. They are allowed to stay in single rooms. The others share in a room, either 2 to a room or 4 to a room. Out of our 55 residents, which is our capacity, about 24 of them are free of charge, even today. And some pay 1,000, 2,000, and some pay 6,000. About 12 or 14 pay the full amount.
So
Whereas
what happens if somebody cannot afford at all?
then I told you, we have nearly 20 odd free of charge, completely free of charge. Zero, gratis.
Beautiful.
They just have to share a room. The food is same, the services are same, everything is same. I mean, there is no differentiation. Everybody is treated the same way. Then come to, this was 1998. In 2003, we suddenly got a visitor from USA by the name of Mr. Behram Baxter. Bachi and I happened to be in Navsari at that time. He came and told us that Bachi recognized him. That, oh, you were called Behram Bandriwala at that time. You changed your name after going to USA. Fine. So he said, I've come here. I have a 95-year-old mother who I would like to admit to your center. Because when she dies, she wants to be consigned to the towers of silence. That was the rationale. So we said, unfortunately, we are chock-a-block full. So she'll have to wait for some time. So Behram being Behram, he said, why wait? Why don't you start a second center? And Bachi said, why don't will you pay for it? Because he was into hotels and hospitality. He said, yes, I'll pay for it. Fortunately, adjoining from just between our existing center, there was a house populated by Hindus, very nice people. And there was a vacant house next door, which was up for sale. So we immediately called that person, and in front of him, we finalized. And Behram said, okay, start the work. So that is how our second center came, which is called Bandriwala Senior Citizen Center. Daulat and Hormasi Bandriwala Senior Citizen. It is interconnected with the first center from the rear. So our facilities are common. The drawing room, the dining, the kitchen. We thought we should have a central kitchen only for both. So that was it. And then finally, next to that center, the new center, was another house in which a single lady was living. And we asked her that, would you like to come and stay at our center? And she said, no, not at all. Till I die, I'll die in my house. Fortunately or unfortunately, she got cancer. And then she came to us and said, I'd like to stay at your center free of charge. And in return, I'll hand over my house to you. So that became our third connecting center. And in our senior citizen center, we have a lot of activities. We send the people out for picnics. We take them out we do practically every month. There is some sort of a program which others come in to. We have a sanatorium in Sanjan, which I'll come to, where they visit at least once a year. And from there, we send them to Udvada, Tatasvaram. So that was the Senior Citizen Center. Then again, as I said, divinity plays a great hand in whatever we used to do. And there was a very royal palace type bungalow in Sanjan, a huge 4.5 acre plot of land from a family called the Dabirwala family, Hormasji Dabirwala, which was starting from Sanjan and going right up to Umargam. He had few thousand acres of land. Now, after he passed away, his family didn't know. They were not interested. So his wife and he had 3 daughters. They contacted us that we'd like you to purchase this from us. Once again, I went to Mrs. Vatsha and said that this is the offer. And it's very beautiful surroundings, etc. Can we purchase it? Will you fund it? She immediately said yes. So we purchased the property. Then we had it renovated. And now over there, we run a sanatorium, which is a beautiful place. One of the best sanatoriums in the country, if you see, as far as our community is concerned. And the locale is superb. We have a huge garden in front and mango orchard and coconut palms at the rear. It's a very well sought after thing. And here also we have kept our prices to the minimum. Even today, what we charge is maximum 800 rupees a day per person, full board and lodge. Now, all these things, if we did not receive the support from individuals, we would not have been able to achieve. Mrs. Vatsha, especially the Zoroastrian Charity Funds of Hong Kong, Canton and Macau, Parveen and Jal Shroff of Hong Kong, they have been by far our biggest donors.
Okay, Uncle. So now we've come to a point where we realize that your belief in the vision has driven your mission, which has worked. You have brought people together who believe in each other with integrity and industriousness and the ability to draw in other people. So that takes the ability of people to trust the team.
True.
And then you've made it monetarily sound so that it is self-sustaining, and the concept of Amirata through the foundation is being achieved. So it's a journey from Asha through actual action to Amiratat and self-sustaining. What would you like to share with us next in the terms of the progress, the feedback you've received, and the advice to others?
The next thing, being from Navsari and people seeing the work that we are doing, with our headquarters being in Bombay as well as Navsari, Senior Citizen Center being there, which we call our flagship. People started donating their old houses that were in dilapidated conditions to us to put to good use for the community. Now, what we decided was that people were migrating from the villages, some families, to the towns and cities. We have a beautiful colony in Navsari, Awabag, built up by the Jokis of Hong Kong, where they have about 26 buildings and 500 odd flats. And coincidentally, Keki Joki of Hong Kong, sister, had a house in Navsari, which they donated to us. And they asked us that what would we do with it? We said we'll demolish your old house and construct an apartment building where we'll give it out on rent to poor Zoroastrians at very nominal rents. So that was the first building which came into being in in 1998. Again, just our senior citizen center and this building were opened simultaneously, more or less, within a space of a few days. Over a period of time, as of today, we have 18 buildings, 1-8, in Navsari, all donated by people, which we've, out of that, Silla Vacha has contributed towards the construction of 7 buildings. Then the Zoroastrian Charity Funds of Hong Kong, Canton, and Macau contributed for 4 or 5 buildings, and different donors have come forward. And so, I mean, we have just been playing the conduit, getting people together, donor as well as donee. And our success has been due to our policy laid down that we have to be transparent, because we work with public funds. Now, that was as far as establishing institutions are concerned. I'll take you now on a journey of our community is a aging community as well as an ailing community. You receive applications from people suffering from various ailments. And here, thanks to the largest of the Zoroastrian Charity Funds of Hong Kong, Canton, and Macau, and Jal and Parveen Shroff, we send all our appeals, and also now to Fazana in USA. We send our appeals to them. We first conduct a due diligence with the parties, with the beneficiaries, and if we are satisfied, we send our recommendations to them, and they fund us for the same. Now, I would say around 350 cases of medical needs in a year, each one being paid about 100,000 to 150,000 rupees. Then providing relief from poverty. We have a program called Providing Relief from Poverty, where today there are 498 individuals to whom we pay, poor, differently abled individuals, senior citizens who are very poor. We pay them 5,000 rupees a month on a quarterly basis, 15,000 per quarter. Then morbids. We have a scheme where we support morbids, mainly the elderly morbids who have retired and still live in penury, to the extent of 7,500 per month, and their widows, to whom we pay 6,000 rupees a month on a quarterly basis. 148 such morbids and widows. Then our Dungarwari workers, pallbearers, Khadiyas, Nasasalars, who also earn a pittance. We support them to the extent of 7,500 rupees per month paid quarterly. Now, all these funds come from Hong Kong. You can imagine the largest funding for the community anywhere on this planet has come from Hong Kong. During this present COVID wave, we have no idea how much people have helped. Hong Kong, Silla Vacha's Trust, Fazana. Today, as I talk to you, I'm sitting on 4 crores of rupees which we have received for the second wave. During the first wave also, we received about 6 to 7 crores of rupees from different sources, which we pay. Where people who had lost their jobs, whose salaries were cut, self-employed people whose businesses were floundering, morbets whose agyaris were closed, and they were deprived of their daily, who were on daily basis and could not get the asodats, the tips. Similar with the chasniwalas in agyaris, who could not, who had probably they got their salaries 7,000-8,000 rupees a month, but not the tips because there were no devotees coming to the fire temples. So each one of them we give according to their needs. And I mean, we are fortunate to be working with people who are very generous, who understand what the community requires. I mean, God bless all the donors. Without them, I mean, our funding is zero. Not literally, but so to say, our own funding is very, very limited, just a few lakhs of rupees. But everything comes from these large-hearted. I call the Hong Kong people champions of philanthropy.
Uncle, what advice do you have to the younger generation to get involved? So, aspirants who want to do it, and maybe others who are not yet complete believers in the power of what they can do to make others stronger. So, these two different categories of the next generation.
I have been receiving ever so often from people writing to me that I would like to come with you to the villages to help you. Now, my instant response is, that's fine. You're most welcome. But how will you help? If you come with me in my Jeep, it will just mean rural tourism. Will you be able to stay in a village? Will you be able to stay in Navsari and follow up on the work that we are doing, my team is doing? And most of them have shied away. Now, we are fortunate. Now, I'm 74. I'm not going to be there for, I'm very positive. I'm going to live to 125, but I'm not going to be so active. So we started developing from Navsari. So we started something called a local committee where people joined us. Many joined, few left. Ultimately, we were left with 3 solid individuals who have been with us for more, worked with us and shoulder to shoulder for 3 years, for 10 years, 3 of them. Only last in 2019, we inducted them as trustees of our trusts, all 3 of them, because they will be the people who will be doing all this work in future. They are already doing it now. Farooq Kasat goes with them, my colleague who has been with us from day one. They are in daily touch with me whenever I visit Navsari, which I have not done for the last 5-6 months because of the COVID thing. And whenever I go, I make it a point to travel to the villages as well to see what's been the updates and meet people at a kind. It's been a very, very satisfying journey, Karishma. And all thanks to, I mean, the vision of the Senior Citizen Center was actually Bachi's. Okay, we should keep mobile people. And we've bifurcated our work, like, because I have offices in Bombay and staff in Bombay, I can liaise with the donors overseas. Whereas the Navsari end is handled by Bachi, most of it. Because she is in complete charge of the Senior Citizen Center, the buildings in Navsari, and the sanitarium in Sanjan. It's her baby.
That's wonderful, Uncle. My next question to you is, what are your schemes for the future? And I have 2 specific questions for you, because everything is based on progress and progressive thinking. Is there any way that you can do something else and something new that is built upon the past. And I'll give you one suggestion that comes to my mind. Have you ever thought of putting the younger with the older so that there is a greater transgenerational approach? Because when you have so many fields, you have so much of nature, to help the elder people, sometimes it's nice to have a lot more younger people involved. And it's also very good for the mind of both the elder and younger to be in a hamazori that is not age restricted. So that's my first question. And second question is, have you any other ideas for how to help the priests, maybe through education in their own field, or maybe in some other way, in addition to giving them a monthly stipend?
Answer your second question first about the priests. Morbets have always been very close to my heart. Although I'm a very forward-looking person, by no stretch of imagination am I an Orthodox. I have received several brickbats because of that. But my counter is always that once you throw a brick at me, it lands on me as a rose. Now, in 1996, with the Athonan Mandal in Mumbai, we formed a team whereby we wanted to help the Morbets who are doing full-time morbidi, young Morbets up to 45 years of age doing full-time morbidi, not working anywhere, by adding to their incomes. We would raise the funds and the Athonan Mandal would disperse them. It was a joint collaboration. It is still continuing. There are about 70, 75 odd priests even today who we are helping. The other thing was because of my interest in priests, and I came across a very lovely person, a psychoanalyst by name of Mrs. Binayfar Saukar. The two of us jointly, we first started working with Geo Parsi because they wanted to do something for Morbets, and they called it the Geo Morbet scheme. We had a couple of sessions, but then it was not possible for Geo Parsi to continue to be involved in this. So after discussion with Shernas Kama, we started the group called the Empowering Morbets Group, about which you may have heard. I mean, we have a very solid group of very dedicated young priests in their 30s and 40s. And we are determined.
I have great respect for people like Cyrus Darbari, people like Sherida Kavri, under the tutelage of Ramyar Sahib, Ramyar Karanjia Sahib. You're all doing a wonderful job. Hats off to you.
Even Ramyar is part of our team as far as Empowering Morbets is concerned. We have off-site visits at Sanjan where we take kids from the madrasa, our young Morbets. They stay for 2-3 nights. They interact. They play games. They interact. Once we had a football match between the parents of children, Morbets and their parents, and Bedouin boys and their parents at our Dadar Gymkhana. We have social, and we took them on rounds of monuments in Bombay, Parsi monuments in Bombay. And that way, I mean, since the last 3.5 years, Empowering Morbets has been a growing project of ours. Now coming to youngsters, I mean, I have not had the privilege so far of any youngster coming and volunteering to work with the elders. Of course, some come sometimes from the Navsari mullahs. They come. If there are, say, 3 of the oldies playing carom, they join as a fourth, play carom with them for an hour or so. But that's the exception, not the rule. Because I suppose children are too engrossed in their lifestyles with their studies and the pressures that they have. That has been the drawback for.
Right, Uncle. One question on the Empowering Mobbed side, not so much your scheme, but this is a question that maybe only you can address with your forward thinking, combined with practical approach, combined with a team spirit. Is there any way that you can see a minimum wage, and not minimum wage, but a minimum wage that is sufficient being put into practice for the mobbed, so that the mobbedy can become the strength, the pillar of the society?
I'll be a little bit ambitious and say, watch this space, because we are working on a scheme whereby mobbedy is put more or less on a comparative corporate. I mean, it's still a great deal of work in progress. It's still very much on the drafting stage, but Empowering Mobbage is working on this idea.
That's wonderful, Uncle.
Let's hope that the community supports it, because the funds are finite, the needs are infinite.
Yes, of course. So thank you, Bachi Auntie, for coming and joining Uncle, my Mama Jaru, and me. So, Uncle, I want to learn from both of you, especially Uncle. In addition to responding to the COVID scenario in 2019, in the vision of Zarathustra Sahib to respond in the now, Nuchit, to the need of the hour, to put science and knowledge together, and to help whoever needs help, like in the Yathahu Vairyo prayer, you responded to the event of Mobed Sahib Zahan Turel getting burnt. And you responded in a way that did not just help one person, but has now started helping everybody and has empowered other people to bring their science, their manufacturing technology to share around the world in an organized way so that all Mobeds are benefited and children can continue their Mobedi in safety and trust. Tell us about this, Uncle, please.
Arising out of the accident, mishap that Zahan had, we thought that this was becoming, just a few months ago, another elderly Mobed from another Agyari, Aslaji Agyari, had got burnt. And that something should be done from our Empowering Mobeds group. We had a couple of sessions with the fire brigade department. We met a couple of their officers who gave us certain tips, but we found that they were not very practical or to carry out in our Agyaris. To have, they wanted sand buckets and some those sort of things. Now, then we thought that why don't we get a fire retardant material? Fortunately for us, one of our colleagues, Hormaz Adasanji from Vachagadi Agyari, he suggested that he said he knew a lady who was manufacturing t-shirts, etc., apparels by the name of Firoza Karani. Company's name is Casablanca Apparels. We contacted her and she said she could prepare the jamas and book the material from one of the textile manufacturing units. We placed an order for 800 jamas and hand pockets, what they call hand pockets, not gloves, and 200 hand pockets and 800 padans for the Mobeds to wear. And this we thought we should first give it gratis to Mobeds instead of giving them, because people may not buy it. So once again, the Zoroastrian Charity Funds of Hong Kong, Canton and Macau came to our assistance and they underwrote the full project, which is going to cost us about 1.9 million rupees. 4,000 meters of the fabric should be ready by the within the next week to 10 days, after which it will be taken up for conversion. We'll be keeping the first 800 jamas with us, and we'll distribute them gratis to all the mobbits in all the agyaris. Subsequent ones, once they require to replenish the stock after 6 months or a year, that we leave it to them to procure it themselves from the manufacturer. We've had discussions with them on that stage. And fortunately, rather surprisingly, we received from UK as well as USA requests. So I've only today afternoon spoken to the lady, Firoza, and put them in touch with the people in UK and USA so that they would deal directly, they would place their orders directly, and then they would receive them. So we hope once the mobbeds get used to this, it's the same jama, there's no change, except for maybe the fabric, with maybe a slightly denser fabric, but which will save them from these flying sparks. Today, with our kathi wood also not being very dry as it should, wet wood are sometimes put on the slightly wet wood is put on the fire, which gives out sparks, and those can be really dangerous for the mobbits. And this young boy Zahan was terrified in the early days, absolutely terrified. He's very fortunate that he's gone back hale and hearty, and now going to appear for his 10th standard board examinations.
Thank you very much, Uncle, for sharing that story with us. And something that you have also achieved, and that I've heard here at the Zoroastrian Trust Funds for Europe from Malcolm Bebu, our president, is that because of the work you do in India, the way you do it in such a wonderful way, it facilitates people from here to contribute the might of their shoulders because of putting their faith in you and your teams. For that, I am absolutely indebted. Thank you, Bachi Auntie, for being the strength, the guiding force, as Uncle says.
Good pillar of strength. Without her, I would not be able to do anything.
And thank you for providing that inspiration to the rest of the world as a team.
Thank you, Karishma. Thank you, Jar.
Thank you.
It's been wonderful talking to you. Thank you, Yasmin.
It's a wonderful couple you make.
Now coming back to the last section of this. So we've talked about your journey with Auntie, the strength you derive, the strength you've given together to the community by sharing leadership, working and addressing problems in the now. The Gathic word for the now is nuchit. So you've always addressed the need with a solution, keeping yourself in the background throughout. You've talked about the future. What is your advice to aspirants from your lessons learned on how to overcome challenges and criticism, both of one's own self and the criticism of one's plan and ideas, so that we can continue to build each other, continue to build a fellowship, and continue to build trust and progress?
I have written a couple of times in my articles, few articles that I've written, that from adversity, we must create opportunity. And if we believe in what we are doing, if we feel that what we are doing is right for the beneficiaries, then irrespective of the criticism that comes our way, we just look forward and march on. In the early days, it was very difficult. I mean, we were very sensitive to criticism. But then we realized that why are we talking and wasting our time? I mean, then I read somewhere that who are critics? They are people who have failed in their vocations.
And then what about overcoming challenges yourself in specific ways that you have come across? And then if you'll go on to tell us about your children and the legacy that you'd like them to go through for themselves and for the community to take your work forward?
What was the first thing you said?
The challenges that you have faced and how you have overcome them. In addition to your wonderful quote of turn adversity into challenge, into positive.
I have faced a great deal of challenges, plenty of criticism, whatever, but it has never deterred me from doing what I want. I've always focused my educational background, my mental, the way I think. I mean, I'm a very focused person, and I don't work in a ad hoc way. I try to be very, I know what I'm doing. And once I know what I'm doing, I mean, I would care a tuppence for anybody criticizing me or not. And so far, it has paid off.
So belief in the right, belief in yourself, being
Absolutely.
systematic and organized.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Do continue.
As far as children go, we do not have natural children of our own. But in my family, between Bachi's brother, sister, my brothers, we have 7 lovely children and 11 grandchildren and 1 great grandchild as well. And we are like their more than their parents. Most of them are very tuned to us, and they call me Dinshaw Papa and Mama. And it, I mean, God has been very kind. We had a great life. There are no complaints whatsoever.
And if I may go on to say that you've also been Mama and Papa to the world community. And for that, I express my gratitude to you, deepest, heartfelt, sincere gratitude.
Thank you so much.
To
Thank
you
you.
and to Auntie.
Sorry.
To you and to Auntie, Bachi
Yes.
Auntie.